Sans plus tarder, j'aimerais maintenant inviter Catherine.
Without further ado, I would like to invite Catherine and Barbara.
First speakers for presentation on setting the stage for this national meeting, the 2022 evaluation of the SWIS-TÉÉ initiative, and the new SWIS-TÉÉ logic model. As a reminder, there will be a Q&A at the end, and the Q&A will only be done through Slido. You will get the instructions during the session, but also at the end of the presentation. So please welcome Catherine and Barbara.
Bonjour à toutes et tous.
Moi, je ne suis pas Catherine. To everyone. I am not Catherine Pitt. I'm Jocelyn Reed.
Anyway, il y avait un petit mélange avec
there was a bit of a mix-up.
My colleague
Barbara is in Ottawa. Are you on?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Jocelyn?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Yeah, we had a last-minute change where we have to co-present. Alors, j'aimerais dire merci à tout le monde.
I wanted to thank everyone to have us IRCC for this event. My colleague Barbara will join us online. And I also have my colleague Jessica that's here. We have members of our teams that are online. I will be taking
SWIS-TÉÉ as a global level. I am an assistant director of policy, and Barbara is our assistant director responsible for operations. If you have specific questions, I do encourage you to talk to your program officer. We're not the people responsible that can help you with any sort of specific questions you have about SWIS or TÉÉ in your specific communities. So I think the clicker is here. Okay.
This morning, we will start with a global overview of the SWIS-TÉÉ, and we will look over the evolution up to today. Then we will go into IRCC data to be able to give you an image of the initiative and the main data, the main demographics.
Oh, crud. Okay. There we go. Enfin, nous conclurons en explorant.
And we will end by exploring the SWIS initiative and how we work together for the future.
So I don't think it will come to surprise anyone that the SWIS-TÉÉ provides school-based settlement programming to support the integration of newcomer students and their families while fostering inclusion and intercultural competence within the education system. We have three distinct client groups. We have students who need to learn about the school setting and are empowered to reach their full potential, families that gain better understanding of the school system, as well as referrals to other resources, which enables them to better support their children, and finally, school staff and the broader student body who have the opportunity to build an inclusive environment through intercultural competence. TÉÉ is built on the same foundation, but it is not simply a translated version of SWIS. It is designed to respond to specific needs and realities of French-speaking newcomer students and families, with services delivered in French and within the Francophone school and community contexts in a minority setting. In line with the Francophone integration pathway and the principle of pari pour, TÉÉ services are delivered by Francophone organizations. While the core objectives are shared, delivery may differ to ensure services are culturally relevant and responsive to Francophone communities. So just a little bit of the history of SWIS-TÉÉ. SWIS-TÉÉ was introduced to address a clear gap in school-based settlement supports. IRCC entered into a partnership with school boards and settlement agencies to create new programming. It has expanded over time in response to growing newcomer needs and from intentional efforts to promote access to SWIS-TÉÉ services across the country. In 2022, SWIS-TÉÉ program underwent an evaluation, and I'll talk a little bit more in detail on that in the next slide. Because IRCC wanted to develop an evidence base to understand performance, best practices, and lessons learned to inform future policy and programming. So just to talk a little bit about the evaluation. In 2022, the department completed an evaluation of the initiative. It was the first time IRCC had formally stepped back to look at SWIS-TÉÉ through an evidence lens. And for those who may not know, the evaluation report is available online. As mentioned previously, it was introduced, the program was introduced in 1999 as a place-based approach to service delivery within a school in-school settlement workers providing support to newcomer youth and their families. In that, now SWIS has evolved to resulting in high degrees of regional implementation. And we saw high degrees of regional implementation variation in elementary and secondary schools across the country. We all, as you probably know as well, that there was different bits and pieces of SWIS kind of scattered in different program areas like NARS, needs assessment and referral services, information orientation, community connections, and employment-related services. But what we learned from the evaluation very clearly is that SWIS-TÉÉ fills a real and essential gap. The school-based model works, it supports newcomer integration, and it plays an important bridging between families, schools, and the broader settlement system. The evaluation also confirmed that there is a clear role for the federal government in supporting this work. We prepared what we call a management response action plan in response to the evaluation, and all actions as a result of that have been completed. So the updated logic model, improved data collection, coordination, implementing coordination functions, etc. And the evaluation will inform ongoing improvements to the design and delivery of SWIS-TÉÉ. So now I'll turn to my colleague Barb.
Thanks, Jocelyn. Can everyone hear me? I'm pleased to join you here virtually, and just apologies in advance. I am fighting a bit of a cold, so hopefully you can hear me clearly. In 2024 call for proposals, IRCC made several refinements in line with the findings of the evaluation. As previously mentioned, SWIS-TÉÉ is now included as a direct service under the settlement program with a new list of eligible activities, both direct and indirect. Funding was provided to support coordinating bodies at the national and regional level to ensure consistent service delivery nationally. Beyond offering services in French language schools, TÉÉ funding applicants may now provide services in French immersion schools to serve newcomer students and their families. IRCC has also developed clearer and more consistent program guidance. iCare was adapted to allow SWIS-TÉÉ specific data entry to support stronger data collection. Funding was provided in CFP 2024 to support improved coordination and information sharing with partners. Next slide, please, Jocelyn. Along with direct services to clients, the department also funds 15 indirect service SWIS-TÉÉ agreements. These agreements do not serve clients. Instead, their role is to strengthen the systems that support frontline work. Coordination is about helping align work across regions and nationally through shared planning, conferences, and communities of practice, so programs don't operate in isolation. Capacity building focuses on strengthening the skills and confidence of frontline staff and leadership through professional development and shared learning opportunities. Community engagement supports schools in building more inclusive environments, including work on intercultural competence, anti-racism, and conflict resolution. And resource development helps create shared tools, templates, and digital platforms so knowledge and good practices can be easily accessed and shared across the network. At the national level, Francophonie Canadienne Plurielle Société, SWAT, leads the coordination of TEE services across Canada, helping align priorities, host national gatherings, and maintain shared communication and resource platforms. While there is a national TEE coordinator, there is no single national SWIS coordinator. Instead, SWIS coordination is supported at the regional level, reflecting the different regional contexts and delivery models. For both SWIS and TEE, regional coordination is supported through a mix of indirect-only agreements and agreements where organizations deliver both direct services and coordination functions. This allows coordination to stay closely connected to what's happening on the ground. Next slide, please, Justin. The next two slides provide an overview of the SWIS-TÉÉ service profile, including the scale of our network and reach across Canada. Nationally, we fund 132 recipient organizations with 137 contribution agreements to deliver direct SWIS-TÉÉ activities. These services are expected to support approximately 279,695 unique clients in fiscal year 2025-26. This represents over $76 million in total annual investment, which accounts for 8% of the settlement program budget. SWIS-TÉÉ services are now available in every IRCC region, including small centers and rural areas, helping ensure newcomer students and families can access support wherever they settle. Dans ce contexte, plusieurs développements importants ont marqué les TEE cette année.
Inaudible for the interpret. There will be a significant expansion in the Atlantic region, and inaudible for the interpret. And for the first time, we will have services for and by francophones. These services are now accessible, which is a first for this territory. The new services have been implemented in other regions, including Alberta, reinforcing access and cultural support, and as well as linguistic support for students and families that are francophone. For newcomers, inaudible for the interpret.
Next slide, please. Thanks, Justin. So for SWIS, there's 107 recipient organizations that are funded via 108 agreements. The total investment is $66 million for fiscal year 2025-26, and 71,962 unique SWIS clients were served between April and September 2025. Pour TEE, 25 organismes bénéficiaires avec 29 ententes avec un investissement total de 9,8
For TEE, we have 25 beneficiaries and 29 agreements, as well as a total investment of $9.8 million. Inaudible for the interpret.
For your awareness, these numbers do not equal the total unique clients, because clients may have accessed services at both francophone and non-francophone organizations. Total unique clients are overall, therefore, we would not count a client twice in the total count if they access both services by SWIS and TEE. Next slide, please. The next three slides show new data IRCC has as a result of the new SWIS-TÉÉ iCare module that was developed to support the changes made to SWIS-TÉÉ in CFP 2024. What is important here is that for the first time, we are better able to tell the story around SWIS-TÉÉ. That is, who is accessing services, what are our clients looking for, etc. So what are some of the early insights that we've been able to glean from iCare data? From April to September of 2025, data shows that 76,208 unique SWIS-TÉÉ clients were served. During this time period, a total of 272,898 SWIS-TÉÉ services were accessed. iCare data illustrates that the top 3 reported needs for clients served were limited understanding of the school system, limited or no self-advocacy abilities, and limited or no knowledge of either official language. As one would expect, both parents, guardians, and students access more school-oriented services than settlement-oriented services. That is, students and parents looking to engage in the school system. Students were receiving information to access school programs, after-school activities, summer employment, and post-secondary pathways. Parents were looking to connect to the community and government resources to support their children's educational attainment. I will turn to Jessalyn for the next couple of slides.
So if you see me doing this, it's just checking. So thanks, Barb. We just want to dive a little bit deeper into some of the data we've been seeing. One of the main takeaways here is that we are seeing strong engagement from families with school-age children, particularly in the younger age brackets. So when you'll see here on the left, it's the age distribution for students. The largest group is our 12 to 17 age group, making up 43% of all student participants. And then we have the 0 to 11 age group, represents about 38%. So again, also strong demand among our elementary age newcomers. For our parents and guardians, they fall within 36 to 45 age range for about 47% of our clients, which I think makes sense in terms of age of parent for school-age children. And then we have the younger group, the 26 to 35, is at about 21%, which possibly reflecting younger families or early career newcomers starting integration support. We have about a even split between male and female students who chose to identify, about 50% female, 47% male, and 3% unspecified. And among our parents, women continue to be the primary point of contact for family-based settlement services, with the majority identifying as female at 59%, while male, those identify as male at about 40%, and 1% not stated. We do want to just point out that we are seeing some anomalies in the data. About 7% of our clients list students as age 26 or older, which is not what we were expecting to see. That's about 5,300 individuals, which is very unlikely to be accurate. Similarly, 7% of parents or guardians are reported as 17 or younger. And within that age group, 4% are recorded as being ages 0 to 11. So I understand that there are specific situations that arise, but I'm not convinced that 4% of our parents are between the ages of 0 and 11 and have school-age children. So let's be clear that there is some misrepresentation in the system. There is some data capture issues. So anyway, and back to what Maryse was saying at the start of the meeting, as we go through these changes to the settlement program, having clear, accurate data is super important. Because it will be for those of us who work in Ottawa, working on these kinds of things, having a clear picture of who's being served and when is going to be very informative for both policy and program changes. So just one small favor that we're asking is please take a look at your internal work and your intake and your data entry, and make sure that ages are being captured accurately. Ensuring accurate data helps strengthen the integrity of the program and supports better decision-making for everyone involved. Excuse me. So can I move on to the next slide? I obviously caught some attention. With this slide, one of the main things I'd like for everyone to take away is that what we are seeing in SWIS-TÉÉ is that people are engaging with the program very early in their settlement journey, which is what we want. 65% of students and 57% of guardians, parents and guardians have been in Canada for only 0 to 3 years when they access the program, which is fantastic. They are accessing services soon after arrival when settlement needs are highest and the school age supports are most critical. We see that engagement drops sharply after the first few years. Only 13% of parents and guardians and 11% of students have been in Canada for 4 to 6 years. And this suggests that if families settle and become more familiar with the school system, their reliance on SWIS-TÉÉ gradually decreases, which is great because it's a reflection of some successful integration. Only 6% of parents and guardians and 4% of students that we have in our data have been in Canada for 7 to 9 years. So you can see the drop off. So again, just to reinforce this is what we expect. This is what we would hope to see with SWIS-TÉÉ. It means that our clients are accessing targeted, time-sensitive support that empowers families to navigate the school system independently over time. So just to talk a little bit about the chart on the right-hand side, this talks a little bit about the immigration categories that we're seeing. So I don't think it will surprise anyone that our GARs are our single biggest users. They are about 29% of our student clients and 24% of parents and guardians. Excuse me. Our economic spouses and dependents, about 26% of students and 16% of parents and guardians. And then we have about, our PSRs make up about 12% of students and 10% of parents and guardians. So, and again, with our PSRs, maybe seeing that as a little bit lower than some of the others, they come with some supports built in, right? So that doesn't make any, it doesn't make sense, excuse me, it does make sense. And then one data point that I want to flag when it comes to our economic is that, excuse me, 1% of students identified as economic principal applicants. You can't be an economic principal applicant before you're 18. So we just want to flag again that we are seeing some anomalies in the data that it would be unusual, for example, for a 12-year-old to be the head of family, bringing the family to Canada. Again, there might be specific situations, but again, when we're talking 1% in SWIS-TÉÉ, we're talking about a significant number of people. Yeah, so please, just the one favor I'd like you to take back is to make sure that your data entry, just take a look at it. But one other thing I'd like to mention here is that one of the things that we should take away from this as well is that we are SWIS-TÉÉ and the services you are providing, you are reaching a broad group of newcomers with significant representation from refugee and economic immigration streams. So it reinforces the reach that the program has and the impact that that you are having when you work with your clients. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Barb for our final few words we'd like to say.
Thank you, Jessalyn. As we move forward with SWIS-TÉÉ, IRCC continues to look for ways to refine programming to promote service delivery that is efficient, consistent, and reflects good value for money. Consistent and accurate data is one of the tools we have to understand the program better. Some of the slides shown earlier reflect new data that IRCC has as a result of the new ICARE module. As Jesselyn was mentioning, this module is new, and we are still working through some data quality issues. Our goal is to make sure that the department has consistent and accurate information that can reliably inform program direction and policy decisions. Your program officers will reach out if there are any specific questions related to your individual agreements, but I want to highlight a few key points that everyone should keep in mind. Many of you are aware that there is a unique exception for SWIS-TÉÉ. All newcomer students and their parents or guardians can be served regardless of immigration status. And this is thanks to the contributions from schools and other partners. However, the targets listed in Schedule 1 of your contribution agreement are based solely on eligible clients that are listed in Section 3.8 of the Settlement Program Terms and Conditions. And your reporting must reflect that. It is important to understand that this exception is based on efforts to allow for inclusivity in the SWIS-TÉÉ group setting activities, particularly with youth. Clients eligible as per our terms and conditions should be the focus of programming, with others being served as an exception. The idea here being that SWIS-TÉÉ workers don't need to turn away students, and in some cases parents, participating in group sessions. While the guidance has always been to report eligible clients only as per the terms and conditions into iCare, many ineligible clients are being reported. iCare will soon be updated to restrict entry to eligible clients only. So for SWIS and TÉÉ clients that are unable to be reported in iCare, such as newcomer students who are temporary residents and Canadian citizens, these should be captured in narrative reports and the annual report on project implementation and outcomes, which is also known as RPO. We are seeing higher than anticipated reporting of Canadian citizens, which signal misalignment of funded programming. The focus of SWIS-TÉÉ programming is intended to be families that are in their first few years in Canada. Therefore, we encourage you to review the programming you offer and the clients you focus on for alignment. Accurate reporting is essential because it allows the department to make comparisons when looking at program costs and outcomes across providers. When we compare costs, reach, and outcomes, the data must reflect only the population the program is designed and funded to support. If you have any questions or need support in clarifying eligibility or reporting requirements, please reach out to your program officer. They're there to help you. Early iCare data also shows that many organizations are reporting the delivery of support services even though they were not included and funded in their agreements. On a case-by-case basis, the department provides funding to reduce barriers some clients may face in accessing services. This funding is called support services and is based on client needs and should be provided when there are no other options available with other levels of government and within the community. Requests for support services are included in proposals and incorporated into funding agreements, and only organizations that have been received funding for support services should report on their delivery in iCare. Now I'm just going to speak a little bit about SWIS-TÉÉ intake versus NARS. As many of you in the room are likely aware, the department and sector have been collaborating for some time now to increase consistency and coherence nationally in the delivery of needs and assets assessment and referral services, also known as NARS, with the aim to use more standardized delivery models in the future. Many recipients have historically been completing an intake assessment for their services, but reporting it as NARS. It is important to note that there is a very big difference between SWIS-TÉÉ intake and NARS. While we don't have time today to get into the full details, I would like to take a few minutes to briefly explain the differences and flag what you should keep an eye out as we move forward. SWIS-TÉÉ intake is an assessment completed by SWIS-TÉÉ providers to determine the needs of newcomer students and parent guardians specific to the school and education system. This assessment informs the referrals the SWIS-TÉÉ providers make to relevant programs and services to ensure newcomer students and parent guardians gain the ability to function within the school and education system and increase their settlement knowledge. Whereas NARS is an assessment provided by recipients to assist clients and their accompanying family members in taking an active role in planning and undertaking their settlement and integration journey. This process involves a formal assessment of their needs as newcomers across a broad spectrum of settlement areas, for example, education, housing, health and well-being, language and financial literacy, employment, community connections, and assets such as knowledge, skills, abilities, and life experiences. As the department moves forward towards a more standardized delivery model, funding for NARS with SWIS and TÉÉ providers will become the exception. There are communities of practice that have been recently established across the country to guide the transition to this new delivery model. If you are not already connected to a community of practice, please reach out to your program officer to ensure your organization is represented in the community of practice for your area. Now I'll just speak briefly about national and regional coordination. CFP 2024 was the first time IRCC strategically provided funding to support national and regional coordination for SWIS and TÉÉ. The intention was to fund recipients with service delivery expertise to promote consistent service delivery, identify issues that are regional and national in scope, develop mechanisms for sharing best practices, resources, and materials, assess needs and set standards for professional development for SWIS-TÉÉ workers, deliver national level professional development for SWIS-TÉÉ workers if needed, and maintain service mapping registry for SWIS-TÉÉ services. The department will continue to evaluate how well this is working and look for opportunities to make improvements. If you are not already aware of the work being done by the regional coordinator for your region, we encourage you to take advantage of the coming days to engage in networking and establish meaningful professional connections during our time together. Next slide, please. So this concludes our presentation. We'll take a break for a few minutes to let folks put their questions into Slido, and then we'll start answering questions. So please refer to the QR code on Slido, and we can answer questions in both official languages.
All right, everyone. It is now time. We hope you enjoy your break this morning. This 15-minute, just to freshen up a little bit. I do need to do that myself most of the time, actually, to freshen up during breaks. I don't know about you. So I went up to my room, but now I'm all set already for this next session that will be starting in a few minutes. But before that, avant de poursuivre, on va donc prendre un moment pour
Before we do that,
mettre de l'avant vos questions
we'll take a moment
pour
to
que IRCC puisse
screen
donner les
your
réponses à vos questions.
question and so
Alors,
that
pendant- et
IRCC
juste
can
avant la
answer
pause, on
them.
vous a demandé d'envoyer vos questions
So during
via
the break, we
Slido.
asked you
Et
to
c'est
send your
exactement ce que
questions
vous avez fait. Il y
in
a plusieurs
Slido.
questions qui est
That's
rentrées
what
ce
you
matin. Alors,
did. Many
merci beaucoup de votre
questions arrived,
participation.
so thank you
So our
for
wonderful
your
colleagues at
participation.
IRCC will be ready to take on your questions that were sent on Slido prior to our break. So, je vais céder la parole à nos deux charmantes collègues.
Okay.
So the mic
please, We would like all of
is
you
to our charming
keep the
colleagues now.
focus up front for this upcoming 15 minutes. Thank you.
Alors, merci beaucoup. Alors, j'ai demandé à Jessica de me joindre ici pour
Thank you so
répondre aux
much. I asked
questions.
Jessica to come
Before
here
we
to
get
answer
into
the questions.
question answering, I just want to acknowledge that we had a bit of a technological snafu during the presentation where we didn't have, the slides in French and English didn't 100% align in terms of some of the data and some of the visuals. So what we're going to commit to doing is making these slides available, the proper slides that align in French and English, available afterwards if anyone would like to have it. So we'll make sure that the organizers have the proper copies and that you guys can access them. The content in terms of what we said is still valid, but just the visuals on some of the slides didn't 100% align. Ouais,
Je voudrais juste vous dire qu'on a eu un petit...
Just
vous
wanted
avez
to say,
probablement vu durant la
as
présentation,
you probably
les
noticed
diapositives
during the
en français et en anglais
presentation,
n'étaient pas
the
exactement pareils.
slides
Il y avait des petites erreurs de
in the
graphique,
two languages
peut-être
were
un peu
not
des données,
exactly the same. A few
nous
mistakes
allons
on the
rectifier ces
graphics and
erreurs,
the
puis,
data,
si vous
but
voulez,
we
on
will
vous enverra le
correct them.
matériel
And
rectifié.
if you
On est
want
désolé.
access them to them,
Okay,
we
so
will
now
send
moving
them
on to
to
Slido.
you.
And when it comes to the Slido questions, we're going to be answering them in the language that they were asked. Since all clients are able to receive services, why can we not validate and therefore capture service provided to temporary residents, not citizens, for Swiss only, of course? So the answer here is that you should be capturing in iCare only those that are eligible for the program, and TRs, temporary residents, are not eligible for settlement programming, so they should not be captured in iCare. Your service delivery to people who are not eligible for SWIS or settlement programming can be captured through other reporting tools, as Barb mentioned during the presentation. So, is there a standardized SWIS intake form? No. Not yet. No, not even not yet. I'm sorry. I'm also responsible for the needs assessment and referral service file, and I think that that's where some of this is coming from, is that we have introduced a standardized NARS assessment form, but no, we're not looking at that for SWIS. What changes are expected within SWIS programming for the next fiscal year besides funding? We don't envision any changes at this point in time. You have your contribution agreements that lay out what's expected for the funding period. If you have specific questions about your contribution agreement and what you're expected to deliver, I encourage you to talk to your program officer. It was shared before that there will be a cap put on services for eligible clients from IRCC based on years lived in Canada. Can you expand on that? So there was an announcement in Budget 2025 that for economic newcomers, that there will be a limit put on, a limit put on services for those newcomers. We can't speak right now to kind of changes that will be happening as you go through your discussions with your regional office and your program officer in terms of what that looks like going forward for your organization specifically. Are you recognizing the overall work of SWIS, which includes many families who may be newcomers but are no longer eligible under iCare, given that the data entry reflects eligible clients? So, to reiterate what my colleague Barbara said during the presentation, the exception for SWIS, the exception for SWIS continues to apply, that we're not asking you to turn anyone away when they arrive for services. However, when it comes to iCare, the only clients that should be reported in iCare are those that are eligible for settlement programming, and through other types of reporting, you can report other types of clients that you have served. Are clients who have been registered for over 7 years but are still permanent residents eligible for SWIS services? So, the exception for SWIS, where we don't ask about immigration status, continues to apply. But when it comes to recording the types of clients that you are serving, back to my point earlier around iCare, it should be only the eligible clients, and that you can use other reporting tools to report on the clients that you're serving that are not eligible for SWIS-TÉÉ under the settlement program. Regarding communities of practice expectations, will organizations be required to document and report their community of practice participation? Are there specific deliverables that IRCC expects to emerge from these collaborations? So I just want to clarify a couple things. One, we talked about the communities of practice in the context of the NARS, the Needs Assessment and Referral Service, where we are establishing specific communities of practice. So just to make sure, we are not establishing specific communities of practice for SWIS or TEE. We do have the coordination function for SWIS and TEE, where there may be opportunities there to share best practices and share lessons learned and those kinds of things, and obviously meetings like this one. But the formal communities of practice are only being established for the NARS, or the Needs Assessment, or les CEBA en français. If you are a service provider who provides both SWIS, TEE, and NARS, or les CEBA, I encourage you to look into joining your NARS community of practice. If SWIS is supposed to serve all, irrespective of their settlement status, why can't we capture those services? Workers spend the same amount of time and effort. Excuse me. It's a reporting. It comes down to how we capture data and what tools we have. iCare will soon be modified to be able to capture eligible clients only. So, and that's the other Jesselyn, my colleague Jesselyn. I'm the other Jesselyn. There's another one in Ottawa who a lot of you know. She can speak to this a little bit more authoritatively than I can, but we expect that change will be happening soon, and you'll have to capture only your eligible clients in iCare, and your other types of clients that you serve will be caught through other reporting mechanisms. The iCare data shared, was it from national or just from Atlantic? It was national. And it took into account both SWIS and TEE. SWIS intake is reported to the IRCC only for students or for the parents as well. If they are eligible for settlement services, they should be recaptured in iCare, if they're parents or they're the students. We will make sure the presentation is available either through the organizers or another option. Do you have an English version? Yes, we will make sure that both the French and English version are available. To confirm, there is no national SWIS coordinator, only for TEE. If not, is this something IRCC is looking to have in the future? It is definitely still an option on the table. It's something we're thinking about, but as we all know, the settlement program broadly, all services are being looked at right now, and so we can't commit to anything in terms of the future state. Est-ce qu'il est possible de demander à la liste de clients résidents temporaires qui a été mis par erreur dans cette iCare afin de mieux les identifier et corriger les prochaines entrées?
Is it possible to request a list of temporary resident clients that was mistakenly entered into iCare in order to better identify them and correct future emails? No, but just correct them now. And soon you won't have a choice. It will be blocked. You can't enter other clients. It's not the end of the world, but you have to keep this in mind. Keep this list for your other tools, for where you share information, just not in IDEC.
The evaluators use a variety of evaluation tools and methods for looking at the data and for both collection and analysis of data. So GBA would have been one of the lenses they would have applied to the work. Is the expectation that SWIS providers provide a lesser service to ineligible clients rather than the same to an eligible client? No. We would like for the services provided to be geared towards newcomers. So, for example, making sure that if there's an information night at a school, that it focuses on the needs of the eligible clients in that school, but we will never ask for anyone to be turned away. So if someone's organizing a youth event at a school and someone shows up, an eligible client shows up with their friends, please don't turn away the friends. So we just ask that the programming be geared towards the needs of the newcomers who are eligible for the program, but that anyone can participate.
Juste un commentaire. Si possible, de renforcer les relations entre les écoles et les fournisseurs de services.
Just a comment, can we reinforce for strengthening relationships between schools and service providers. The goal is to reach all newcomers to better serve them and support them in their settlement process. We agree. So in the community, there's the RIFs, so you can go to the meetings to know more about the services in their communities. We work to make sure there are partnerships, but also in the Francophone communities try to establish relationships without other service providers, but of course you have to get to know them first. So go to the RIF meetings to know who in your communities offers services to Francophones. And if there are organizations that can support your clients for after, they won't need your services
When should a SWIS intake be done? Only for new clients?
don't.
And can workers do a SWIS intake and then another form for the same appointment? Well, moi, je ne suis pas, I'm not on the operational side. Can my colleagues, Dominic, okay. Can my colleagues in Ottawa hear me? No, we've been having some technical issues. So what we'll do is we'll make sure that if whoever asked that question, if you could identify yourself to me afterwards, I'll make sure that we get your regional office to reply and talk to you about it. Why are some SWIS programs doing NARS in addition to the SWIS? Direct service providers can provide any number of settlement services. So it's entirely possible that there are some some organizations doing both SWIS and NARS.
Yeah. Et dans des communautés plus petites, des fois, c'est le seul fournisseur de services qui offre tous les services aussi.
In smaller services, often they offer
I think
both also.
For those in the back, we've covered the two top ones there. The settlement journey takes longer than 3 years. Can IRCC remove the 3-year limitation on SWIS service access so that the providers can focus on serving clients based on the need rather than their duration in Canada? So the eligibility for the SWIS program is for the settlement program is for the entire program, not just SWIS. But I will reiterate that the exception for SWIS will continue to apply, that if there are folks who are not eligible for other types of settlement services but participate in SWIS, that is fine. Am I out of time? Okay, so merci beaucoup. I'm out of time, but I'm here for the next day and a half if anybody has any questions. Merci beaucoup et bonne journée.
Merci. Gênez-vous pas pour venir nous parler. Hein?
Ouais.
Don't be shy to come talk to us. So.